try to imagine all of recorded human time. Go back thousands and thousands of years. You might vision a caveman and a cave woman sitting around a fire with a cave baby. Well, take that and go back 1,000,000 years before that. That's when humans first started running. Today, we're going to talk about the history of running. We're going to go back into history, and then like Usain Bolt, the fastest man on the planet, who can run 28 miles per hour, we're going to sprint through history and examine some of the more interesting milestones of the history of running. This is important information because it's a shared history of all of us since we're all human. We're going to break history of running down into 3 broad categories: early humans, cultural changes, and finally running today. Go back one, please. Humans started running roughly 4 million years ago. According to J.C. Flores in his 2013 Intermittence for Humans Spreading 4 Million Years Ago, humans were hunters who crossed from Alaska to the Americas. Next. As humans started to engage in more upright walking, the unique ability to be able to sweat differentiated us from all the other land animals. You can tell them that when you're calling. Basically, what sweating does for us is it allows us to cool our body down. So when we're chasing after other animals, they get hot, they get tired, they have to stop. And no other animals do that except for us. We are the only ones that can regulate our temperature like that. As a result, it allows us to do a tremendous amount of things, and we've climbed to the top of the food chain. R. Alexander explored this in his unique research entitled Bipedal Animals and Their Differences from Humans, when he says, "No animals walk or run as we do," posted in the journal Anatomy in 2004. Well, for millions of years to follow, not thousands, millions of years to follow, the history of running pretty much remained the same. Shoes back then were pretty much what we have now. Something soft, something canvas, you step on a pebble, but really not much different than what we have now. Something did happen along the way in the history of running. The Battle of Marathon. We're now at 490 BC, some 2,000 years ago. As the Persians secretly are set to invade Greece, Phidippides is sent on a mission to run 40 miles from Athens to Sparta in order to warn of the impeding army that's coming. Well, he made the run, he warned them about them, and the Greeks were able to stave off the Persians. Now, within 50 years of this battle, the Greeks created democracy. They also created philosophy, biology, and all of the other ologies that exist for us today. So it's arguable that if Phidippides didn't make this run, we never would have seen democracy or any of the great inventions of the Greeks. For many years to follow, we saw more freedoms all around the world through democracy, except for 2 groups: Native Americans, or minorities generally speaking, and women. By the 1880s, go back one please. By the 1880s, the Industrial Revolution was well underway, and we see more modern recognizable versions of shoes like we have today. In his article, marathoner Luis Tewaniwa in 2013 from the Western Quarterly, Matthew Gilbert writes, his participation in running events recalls a time when white America situated indigenous Native Americans on the fringes of society. Next slide, please. So too was it true for women. No women ran any races officially until 1967, when Catherine Switzer signed up for the Boston Marathon under the name Kay Switzer. She signed with that name because she knew if she signed with her lady name Catherine, they wouldn't let her on the course. And by mile 3, you can see race organizers kind of figured out what was going on. Well, in The Influence of Technology of Marathons by Diana Cantu, written in the Academic Search premiere again in 2014, she quotes Catherine Switzer as saying, "A big man, a huge man with barred teeth was set to pounce me, and before I could react, he grabbed at my shoulder and flung me backwards, screaming, 'Get out of my race! Give me those numbers.'" Well, these pictures went all over the world. And by the time the year was through, race organizers were competing to get as many women as they could into their race. as women influenced running, so too did running start to influence women as well. We're now interpreting the history of running in vastly different ways than when it was just a gentrified, male-dominated sport. In 2012, BMC Public Health wrote the effects of running therapy on depression. Their research said that physical activity, including exercise, is a relatively cheap and non-harmful lifestyle intervention that lacks all of those side effects of medication. In the effects of music intervention on emotional stress and running performance, written in 2011, Lane, Davis, and Davenport say that listening to music is an effective emotion regulation strategy for use in running. We wouldn't have had this without the advent of all the minorities and women getting involved in this sport. Men just didn't develop these things. And then all of a sudden, rapidly, they came through the development and incorporation of these minorities and women in the sport. We're still associating running with great changes of today, as the Kenyans are winning marathon races all over the planet for the cost of a plane ticket. They're taking giant checks of cash and they're sending them back home to their impoverished families, much like we early humans had to do running across the plains to gather food for hours. On final examination of the history of running, we can say it's not just a general topic or a hobbyist thing, but something of our shared community, of our shared history. The history of running reflects a shared history of all of us today and our ancestors of the past.